Welcome to the Conversations Across the Grand Canyon podcast, aka The Big Gap. Here, our purpose will be to explore the impacts of social, political, and economic issues through the lens of generational and cultural differences. Good day, listeners. This is your host, Al Perry of the Big Gap podcast. Hope you're having a great day, a great week. And I know it's been a minute since my last episode, but I just wanted to uh, kind of explain that I've been kind of distracted from some family health issues that I had to deal with recently. And I actually, a couple of weeks ago, I had scheduled two guests to appear on the podcast with me. Uh, they actually had done individually a podcast with me, both gentlemen. And I've always wanted to get them both together and do one with me. Uh, they were both, like myself, they were both Army veterans. And I wanted to do a podcast with them together to reflect on our service and have their take on some of the current issues that are confronting our military, both here domestically and around the world. And also uh, with the upcoming 250th anniversary of our nation, I wanted to have them uh, speak with me on their view of what America has been in their mind, has been successful at, and what we as American, as a nation, what we could do better, and how we are perhaps in a way kind of losing our influence and our losing the respect of other nations in the world. I'm not saying that we need to particularly care about what other people may think of us, our policies, and our projection of power in the world, but it certainly has become more of an issue in recent years, especially within the last, let's say, 10 years. I'd like to start my conversation. Uh, hopefully, well, let me go back. Hopefully, I can get those two gentlemen rescheduled. Like I said, 2 weeks ago, they were scheduled to do the podcast with me, but one of the gentlemen forgot about a prior commitment. We tried to reschedule, wasn't able to make it happen. So we said we revisit it at a later date. And so I'm going to try to do that, and we'll see what comes of that. So I'd like to begin my conversation on, well, let me start this way. A while back, when I was volunteering at the Daybreak uh, Center, one of the staff members, a young, uh, thoughtful individual, he asked me, I was on the intake desk, that particular day, and doing a little bit of a lull in activity at the center. I think I had a military veteran cap on that identified me as a Cold War veteran because I was in the military from 1971 to 1974. And I had enlisted, not drafted, enlisted right out of high school, 1971. And I actually enlisted with the intention to volunteer for the Vietnam conflict. And, after basic and my AIT training, I actually had orders for Vietnam. But in a way, in typical Army fashion, there was a little bit of a snafu. And I got sent to Fort Lewis, Washington, to board a transport plane to be sent to Vietnam. But they did all of that. I was actually at the hangar being processed through to board the plane to head to that war zone when they finally realized that I was 17 years old. And of course, 17, you cannot be in a war zone. So I got pulled and I got reassigned stateside. My intentions were to, stay at my assigned stateside duty assignment until I turned 18. And then I was going to reapply to go to Vietnam. But at that point, peace talks were going on. Our force was being downsized, and the war was basically coming to a close. So I never got that chance to do what I had hoped to do. Now, getting back to Daybreak and the staff member who asked me a question. I guess he saw me with my Cold War veteran cap on, realized that I was a veteran, and asked me a question. If I thought America was a great, and he used air quotes, country. And by the tone and tenor of the way he asked the question, I knew he was not expecting some boilerplate answer. He was looking for a thoughtful and serious exchange from his question, answer to his question. So I hesitated to collect my thoughts, and something happened. Something jumped off. There was a little bit of a skirmish, a little bit of a disagreement among a couple of the participants, and that was part of his job as a staff member, was to handle those sorts of things. And so he got pulled away. And I never got a chance to answer his question, but I thought about it. Even after my shift, my volunteer shift ended, and I left and went home, I thought about his question. Is America a great country? Well, I guess the way I look at it, you can answer that from two perspectives, one historically and one culturally. Historically, America, as far as being a great country, has left a lot to be desired. Culturally, America is regarded for being great due to its can-do attitude, that independent, freedom-loving attitude that not only founded this country, but made individuals through exploration, through expanding into the existing frontiers. You know, America was founded by of course, the 13 colonies, and they were all on the eastern seaboard. And so maybe the first frontier was anything that was just west of the Appalachian Mountains. And then after, Kentucky, Tennessee, that was the frontier at one time. Then after the Louisiana Purchase, a little bit further west, that was the frontier. And then after Lewis and Clark exploration, all the way to the west coast, to the Pacific Ocean, that was the next frontier. And through all of that, you had individuals who helped shape and define through perseverance, Indian wars, trials, hardships, rugged living, a lot of heartache and death and sacrifice, settled this country and made it what it is today. That can do attitude, that was greatness. That was cultural greatness. Now, historical greatness is more of a mixed bag. Historically, from our founding, we've done a lot of things that weren't so great. When you think about our founding, one of the first things you think about is our Declaration of Independence. Prominent in that, all men are created equal. All men are entitled to their pursuit of liberty and happiness. And yet, even while those words were being written, we allowed slavery, chattel slavery, to exist on our shores. That was not great. And after we fought a war, a civil war, to finally end that travesty, a major effort was made after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln to dismantle the Reconstruction effort that was put in place to not only free the slaves, but give those freed men and women a right to choose their representatives and participate in the governance of this country. So we dismantled Reconstruction and allowed the South, for the most part, to take away those rights we had suffered to get and return to white supremacy and the establishment of Jim Crow. That was not great. So, and there have been other instances where we have not performed in our best manner that we could have. World War II. As a nation, we knew from World War I that Germany still had these sort of imperialistic desires. And we kind of watched them rearm themselves. We knew from the rise of Adolf Hitler and his desire to create a white Aryan supremacist nation. We knew through the 1936 Olympics his racial animus against quote unquote inferior peoples, his anti-Hebrew, anti-Jewish sentiments. We knew all of these things. We watched him, his warfighting machines and factories. We watched the output of those factories increase. We watched him mass his armies on the borders and knew that an invasion was imminent. We knew all these things. And when the war started, I think we were late to the party, in a sense. We should have been at the forefront of that from the very start. But we waited until we were attacked by the Japanese in 1941 before we got really involved in the war, when we should have been involved in it from the very start in 1939. So I don't think that was a great look for America. And there have been other instances, but those are just a few examples, historically, to illustrate the point I'm trying to make. And even with this can-do attitude that so many praise us for and think is a great attribute to have, look, even though you can do something, there's a negative aspect to that also. Just because you can do doesn't mean you should do something. Here in Middle Georgia, one of the most glaring examples of that is the displacement of the Muskogee people from a civilization a nation unto itself. The Muscogee people had been in the middle Georgia area and the surrounding uh, actually states. The Muscogee Nation extended west into Alabama, north almost to Tennessee, or northern Georgia at least, and perhaps a little bit into Florida. It had been here for 12, 15,000 years. And because we could, we displaced those people, force marched them on what we now call the Trail of Tears into the Midwest, to Oklahoma, and took their land, took their heritage. And we did that not only to the Muscogee people, but as we moved west, we did that over and over and over again. We made treaties with the native people, the indigenous people that were here before Western Europeans came, but many of those treaties were broken. Again, like I said, time and time and time again. So, like I said, just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it. So that, again, wasn't great, in my opinion. So if I was to answer that question originally posed to me many months ago, I imagine that's how I would have answered it. We have culturally have had occurrences of greatness. Individual Americans have performed admirably, honorably, can be considered great. But historically, we have left a lot to be desired. And that's the point I guess I would make. I'll leave that, and if I ever get those two gentlemen to reschedule, we can expand on my thoughts on that subject and see what they think. But I guess we'll just move on a little bit to some local issues that have come to mind and make me have some thoughts on things that are going on in local governments and things of that nature. Of course, we've got a big elections this year. Uh, we're going to be choosing a new governor, lieutenant governor, a senator later on this year, and we will. I'm a nonpartisan voter, but I'm contemplating when I went to vote uh, for the primaries. I had a nonpartisan ballot, and basically all I had on my ballot was, for the most part, just judges. to choose uh, to make my selection on those. But because I did vote nonpartisan, now that there are runoffs in both the Republican and Democratic tickets, I can go and because we are an open primary state, I can go and vote, choose a Republican ticket or a Democratic ticket and vote in that. And I think I will. I haven't decided which ticket I want to vote on, but I will make that decision. And I hope that everybody exercises their right to vote. It is a very important duty as American citizens that we have, and we shouldn't take it lightly. Here in Twiggs County, where I reside, and in many counties around here in Central Georgia, Jones County, Monroe County, Bibb County, maybe not so much, but Twiggs County is definitely in the center of the storm about approving data centers. And it's become an issue in uh, the Georgia state government campaigns. And I attend commission meetings, I see the news, and almost every day it comes up in campaign advertising, the local news, uh, commission meetings, city council meetings. It just goes on and on. It's an issue that it's not just local, it's nationwide, and it's not going away, mainly due to the fact that artificial intelligence is so important, not just for commerce, not just to make uh, our individual personal lives better and easier to navigate, but it has serious, serious national defense and national security concerns. We simply are going to have to keep up with China, Russia, and our adversaries who are charging full speed ahead on artificial intelligence to make their offensive, military offensive, and national defense more fortified. So it's something that is inevitable. The best we can do is to make sure that, well, hopefully, technology will ease some of the concerns we have about power consumption and water usage. And we plan these things in the right way where we can do what we need to do to keep up with the military uh, strategy that we need to deter our adversaries and enemies. So it's simply just a national security issue, and they're going to be built. Hopefully, the Georgia State Legislature will come with some guidelines that will help guide local communities to make the right decision or help them make the right decision. So we really need to kind of prod our state legislatures to do the research, consult the experts that they need to consult, get insurances from the power companies that they will be able to provide the power and the infrastructure to build these things without doing undue harm to the our environment and to our pocketbooks with higher power bills and whatnot. So hopefully we can get these things and settled and finalized, and let's say have a moratorium on data centers that is collective, and everybody has a all concerns are vetted and hopefully come to a reasonable compromise so we can feel confident in data centers and not have all the fear mongering and a lot of conspiracy theories that you usually run into when people just don't know what to expect. And you hear a lot of misinformation. And so we got to be transparent, and we've got to kind of nip all this misinformation mainly. We got to nip it in the bud, be transparent, and do common sense solutions to what people's concerns are. Another thing here locally, before I end my podcast, I just had this thought not too long ago how I've been living here in Georgia since 1967. And there was a lot of counties, from I got out of the Army in 1974, and I was legal drinking age when I got out the Army. And a lot of the counties around Bibb County, if I remember right, even Bibb County, you could not buy liquor on Sundays. That was a no no. And so there was a lot of places in Macon, in the neighborhoods, the inner city neighborhoods, shot houses, liquor houses, whatever you want to call them, that sold beer, or you could get beer illegally on Sundays. And they were everywhere. Anybody who's my age remembers them, patronized those places, frequented them. It was a place to go on Sundays and drink and be social, and uh, even some places they actually even sold some food to go with the drinking. So, and I never thought that would change, but it slowly has. Now, I remember when Bill allowed Sunday liquor sales, but all the rural, let's say, quote unquote, rural counties, they resisted it. Anytime it came up for a vote, uh, through the 80s, 90s, the early 2000s, these rural counties rejected it. No Sunday liquor sales. Some counties were even dry counties, period, where you couldn't buy liquor anywhere in the county. I don't know if Bleckley County was one of those, maybe Pulaski County, I'm not sure. But anyway, there were some. And in the last 10 years, it has very much surprised me to see that every time a vote comes up to allow Sunday liquor sales or even the dry counties, it's approved. And I'm just struck by that all of a sudden. How we went from no liquor sales on Sundays, some extreme examples of no liquor sales in the county, period, on any day, to now every surrounding county not only allows liquor sales, but allows it on Sunday. What a change of heart we have seen on that issue. And no doubt it's generational. Younger people driving this, uh, driving the approval on this issue. And so I'm thinking to myself, what's next? The other thing that we've kind of resisted here in Georgia and the counties therein is gambling. Gambling establishments, casinos are not legal or allowed in the state of Georgia, but people are banking on that changing very, very soon. Macon-Bibb County has or is banking on gambling being legalized in Georgia. They just awarded a $20 million, I guess you would call it like a potential contract, to a casino that wants to, when it is approved, and I'm pretty sure it will be approved, legalize gambling. They're right across from the new amphitheater down at the Macon Mall. One of those anchor stores is still sitting empty, and this casino is waiting to transform that property and maybe in the upper parking lot a hotel, casino, just waiting for the Georgia State Legislature to approve it, and boom, legalize gambling. And I'm just kind of astounded how the tables have turned on two issues that I guess 20 years ago I would have never have guessed would be accepted the way it is now. But there again, it's generational, uh, and it's going to define not only here in Georgia but nationwide. You're going to see this transformation take place. So there are some other issues that I want to talk about on future episodes of the podcast. I could probably go on for another 20, 30, 40 minutes about things that are happening here in Georgia, here locally, nationally. But I'll just end on this last little last note. In a little less than a month, America will be celebrating its 250th anniversary. Uh, I think the festivities will probably start right around the time of the Juneteenth celebrations, which is about the middle of June. So the festivities in Washington, D.C. and around the country will start to, the concerts and the parades and the dedications and the just all around celebration for the 250th. And it kind of was, I was a little bit struck by the fact that Juneteenth is going to coincide with these other celebrations. One celebrating 250 years of independence, and Juneteenth celebrating the end or celebrating for African Americans, celebrating the end of slavery and our freedom as a people. It's going to be an interesting juxtaposition. I'm kind of interested in see how everything plays out. I'm sure there's going to be some controversial moments, some agitators, not appreciating African Americans celebrating their freedom as a people, maybe even putting a little bit more precedence over celebrating our freedom as a nation. I hope it doesn't happen, but I just know it is. And anybody listening probably knows it too. So I just hope whatever happens doesn't descend into some kind of violent confrontations and whatnot. So we'll see. So I'll end on that note, and hopefully I can get this my guest to reschedule, and we'll have this. We'll continue this conversation about our nation, our future. I'd like to talk about our military and other issues in the world that are kind of top of mind, and Americans and have concerns about. We are in conflict with Iran, which is causing oil prices and making travel more expensive. Inflation is still a problem. There's so much to talk about. So I, I'm, I just need probably just in this in this episode because, like I said, I could probably go on and on. So we'll just end it right there, and we'll talk to you hopefully soon. I know it's been a minute between this podcast and my last podcast. Hopefully, It won't take me too long to get some guests scheduled, and we'll explore some other issues, some of the same issues that we've covered in the past that have some new information and things that we hopefully can discuss and hopefully solve. Things that we really need to approach in a manner of civility and compromise, which is a very rare commodity or commodities these days. So until next time, this is Big Al Perry, Big Gap Podcast. Take care. Be happy. Take things with a little bit of, take things with a grain of salt, and try to be positive. That's one thing I think we really need, some positivity. With all these negative campaign ads you see on TV, name calling, we just need to I'm trying to find the word. We're all in this together. We're all on this planet together. We're all in these communities together. We just need to act like we're together. No, don't act like it. Be about it. Be together. Because that's the only way we can get rid of all this division, animosity, and truly celebrate this upcoming 250th anniversary of our nation in the manner that it needs to be. Thank you for listening. See you next time.